cream of the crop. But it does it better.
Baby, you are so money and you don't even know it.
I understood that reference.
Morning, Mr. Hammond.
Your mission, should you accept it,
Steal, destroy, shadow, disappear.
assemble the team.
And here we go.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Freewheeling Fridays. This is a show where we have a guest with us each week. We find out more about them by taking your questions, but we also talk about all things pop culture, because why not? It's part of the Madness Entertainment Group, and this show is part of the Madness Brother. Yeah. So we're going to have fun discussing those things. We're discussing a couple of different pop culture items or things of discussion in the green room before we even started. Gee Willikers. But please welcome a historian aficionado. He knows everything about everything when it comes to comic books inside and out. Please welcome the Road Dogg, Jesse James, winning. Hello, Jesse James. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I'm a Mr. Perfect fan, so intro of Macho Man, pretty rough for me, but I can handle it on this show. Thank you, Ryan, for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm very happy to have you here. We're happy to have you here, or maybe watching and listening to this right now. Do not forget to like and share with all of your friends. If you're watching us live or what is known as a replay, this is Memorex. Hello there. If you have any questions for our guest of honor or myself, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Madness Entertainment Group is saying, yo, Jesse. There he is. There's Pops. Good to see you, man. Hope everything's well in your neck of the woods there, Pops. Appreciate you, man. You're the dog. But yeah, no, I have a very electrifying personality, so I figure adding a little bit of a clip of Macho Man from old school wrestling was appropriate. Because, granted, I didn't watch that era of wrestling because I was just a tiny bit, a little before my time. But there were a lot of great promos in life, and Macho Man cut some of the best. So I figured, why the heck not?
Right, and keep in mind that's a Saturday night main event.
It is
that she showed
1985. Yeah,
exactly. So for them to be redoing it shows you the power of understanding your market, because they're already on twice a week and AEW and everybody else, but understanding you can do one more night, Saturday night main event. So very, very cool when you look at history and how social works as a whole, back from the vintage 80s to where we are today. That's
very, very true. Well, it's funny. Before we dive into one of these questions that I do have here in front of us, Madness Entertainment goes on to say, this is going to be a good one. I watched Mr. Perfect's dad. Mr. Perfect's dad?
Yeah.
Wrestle when I was just a kid. Oh my gosh. That's going back a hot minute, isn't it?
Yeah. Larry the Axe Hennig,
that's
who actually was in the AWA.
Really?
Right? And the AWA was where Larry the Axe and Curt Hennig wrestled for the first time.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah. Father son. Yep.
I did not know this. And who can forget the perfect plex? Hooking him up with fisherman's suplex. You just hook him up with the leg like this and just flow him back. You know. So,
yeah.
AWA, he says. Okay. All right. It's going back a hot minute there, Pops. Good Lord.
Yeah. That was owned by the Ganyas. Yeah. And
yes.
And the Bumblebees were the champions until the Road Warriors came in and introduced themselves. Back in the day, if you look at the AWA, which was based out of, I forgot where they were based out, but they did it at the Showboat in Las Vegas. So my dad
Vegas.
All that. Yeah. And amazing to think, everybody started from there. It became good in the 90s. So it's very cool to have that culture, and also understand there's a great crossover from wrestling to comic books. It's a huge crossover. So yeah, very good stuff. Walking down that road as a 7-year-old is fun to always go back to those memories.
Oh my goodness gracious. I mean, Madness Entertainment Group even has a memory. They're saying, I saw them back in Minneapolis. AWA was huge. It was big back then. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you mentioned the Hennig family and, Mr. Perfect, obviously, the late, great Curt Hennig, no longer with us. RIP to Curt Hennig. Any other favorite wrestlers or even particular matches that stood out for you that you really enjoyed?
So my top 3 wrestlers are of all time is Curt Hennig, and then RVD, and then, believe it or not, Bailey. Those are my 3 favorites. I don't know how Bailey came into the mix. I was a big oh my gosh, I have a mind blank who my favorite woman wrestler was, and she just wasn't that good anymore. and Becky Lynch. I'm sorry.
Oh, Becky Lynch. Yes.
She was, for some reason, that punch in the face where her face exploded. I mean, I was a fan from there on. And about the last 3 years, I just became a Bailey fan with her turn.
Heel turn, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Being part of the group and then being kicked out of the group. I think she got screwed at WrestleMania, but it is what it is. But those are my 3 favorite fans. The great thing is I met Kurt Hennig a long time ago at the Nitro Grill in Las Vegas.
Oh man, the Nitro Grill, man, that's when I was watching the latter part of the Monday Night Wars between Vince and Bischoff. So yeah, I remember the Nitro Grill being advertised and promoted heavily during Monday Nitros.
Exactly. And so at that time I was doing radio for ESPN, so I was media passes and everything. And then I met RVD at Amazing Arizona Con or Amazing Las Vegas Con.
Yes.
Great. I met him. And then I haven't met Bailey yet. But I actually, if you look at my Facebook page, you'll see I have hundreds and maybe thousands of pictures of every wrestler you could think of.
Jeez.
Over the years, because I grew up in you got to take a picture of everybody with everybody. Even if you don't know who they are, take a picture of them because you don't know who they're going to be. And so I would go to these events and I just start taking pictures. And then all of a sudden that Rey Mysterio, who was really no one at the time, all of a sudden becomes big. And I'm like, oh yeah, here's me with Rey, right?
619.
Yeah, exactly. And so I really enjoy the notion that I could leave the comic book world and go into this different world of wrestling and have that 2-3 hours of watching promos and how people speak and how they act around people and how they react to fans, either good or bad. And it really taught me business in a different way, right? So if you're a Hulk Hogan fan before he turns, you kind of over time become still a Hulk Hogan fan. The best example is John Cena can't be bad. He tries to be so mean and bad, but people love him still. They still change his name, right?
The heel turn after 25 years in the business.
Yeah. And it ticks him off because he can't get the fans to boo him. Yeah. And so I think that's what's great about wrestling. Comic books is a little bit different. If you don't like someone, it lasts you forever. There's no turn that you're going to say, well, I'm okay with that person now. And that's the challenges of when you talk about wrestling, NASCAR, and all that. When you get to the comic book world, we're in a very moment to moment, and we're kind of in this, pardon me when I say this, in this FU world, where if you don't like someone FU, but if you like someone cool. And I'm more in that world where I'm going to get along with everybody. I don't care even if I don't like you, I'm going to get along with you. Because it just betters the business for us.
Fair enough. And Pops is being nice here. He says, "Okay, I'm going to shut up and let Brian do his show now." And then he says, "RVD, I like that pick." Yeah. I don't mind that either. I've been to a few house shows when I was still watching. I watched wrestling between 98 and 2006, respectively. Those were my wrestling years as a fan, and then I moved on to something else. But I've seen RVD at house shows. I've seen a number of wrestlers at house shows. I've met some wrestlers over the years. I've met the Hardy Boys. I've met Lita, which, by the way, if anyone had a crush on Lita, man, doesn't matter how old she gets, she's still beautiful as she was in 2000 when she debuted on Sunday Night Heat with S.A. Rios at the time. Yeah. I was there. Yeah. I was watching TV that I remember that very distinctly during the Hurricane Run on that guy. Woo! Anyway, Lita's been nice. I haven't met Trish yet. I haven't met yet. She's on the list, man. She's on the list because between Lita and Trish, when they were, laying the groundwork, the foundation of what would eventually become the elite, the women's division that you got now, it's like without Trish and Lita, none of it would be possible because they main evented Raw when no one thought they could. And my hat's off to both Lita and Trish because I met Lita. But what's up, Team Extreme, y'all? Yeah, exactly. Trish, Stratisfaction. Looking forward to meeting her. It hasn't happened yet, guys, but it will happen.
Victoria was another one in that first.
She pushed it forward.
Yeah, exactly. So
the Chicago street fight match, yeah.
And so it's very interesting to see the growth of these folks that are, we forget that even if you own a comic book store, you're going into your home,
right?
Second home. You're hanging out. You're hanging out with fans. These folks travel 300 days a year.
Yeah.
Doing promos, don't get to see their family. So for what I do and what I get to do, I can't even compare to these people that actually really have jobs that have to travel and do all this hard work and hope they don't get a leg broken or a nose broken during those times. But yeah, I think wrestling people, I think at the end of the day, even people that don't like wrestling like to talk about wrestling. It's crazy, right?
It's a weird dichotomy or situation that we're in. Or something like that. Once again, this is Freewheeling Fridays, part of the Madison Entertainment Group. Don't forget to like and share. If you have any questions for Jesse James or myself, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. If you're watching this live on the replay, hello there. When did you start reading comic books?
So I actually started reading comics by mistake.
Really?
It was January 25th, 1982. I was in Las Vegas. I was a surf punk jock.
Oh, wow.
So I was always skating and doing all this crazy stuff. And in Las Vegas, it gets very hot, and so you're trying to find shade a lot when you're going down hills and crashing and doing all that fun stuff. And I happened to not realize I was standing in front of a guy's door, and the guy came out and he said, "Hey, can you move from my door?" Well, being a jock, and all this stuff, I just took one step over from his door, and he walked out, and I wish I had it with me. He walked out and handed me this Avengers 129, and he said, "If I give you this comic, will you leave my store?" And I got on my skateboard and I rode it home, and I will tell you, I read that book through, upside down, backwards, read every ad. Over the last 43 years, I've probably read it 1,000 times. It's my most important comic book I ever owned. And so what happened was I got addicted just from that one comic book, and my parents would give me $1 for lunch. I would get on my Pro Huffy sports bike. I would stop by a Safeway, buy 4 packs of Bubblicious, go during lunch, pimp out the Bubblicious for 50 cents each, have $1 for lunch, and then $1 to go buy 10-cent books from the friendly neighborhood comic book store. And I was doing this 5 days a week. And then on Saturday, I would be there. I'd go mow lawns in the morning and go make more money. But I was always a kind of a 10-cent bin person because I really couldn't afford 60 cents. That was a lot of money for me at that time. But back then, obviously, the 10-cent bins were Bronze Age and it was Silver Age books. So I was reading good stories, good art, covers okay, not like covers today, but great stories. And what I saw on the cover was inside. So I've been reading comics for 43 plus years. I can take an issue number 3 and still enjoy it without reading issues 1 and 2. I know how to look at art as a whole. I know how to look at backgrounds in a panel to make it more interesting. And then I kind of read it the way I want to read it. I don't read it as people tell you how to read it online. I'm going to read it and I'm going to interpret it the way I interpret technically life. And so reading comics for 43 years, it's evolved, but still the same thing, right? It's good against bad. 90% of the stories out there are good against bad, and good always wins. I tend to gravitate over to horror, where the horror character technically wins a lot, because I do like seeing evil win over good. I think it's a good change up. I listen to Iron Maiden, so I'm kind of in that mode all the time. So I will tell you, the way comics are written and done over the last 43 years is really evolved into better art, better covers, but I think the writing is still where it's at from 40 years ago.
Wow, man. You remember the exact day and moment you started reading? I mean, listen, I don't remember the exact date. I think I still have the ticket, maybe. I don't know, because my friends and I, we went to Batman Day 2017 at an LCS, and that's when I started reading comics for the first time, and that was on Batman Day of all days. And I love Batman, but I'm more of a Superman guy than a Batman guy.
Right.
But I still started reading it because, my friend's been talking it up for years to me, and they're like, you got to give comics a chance. They're good stuff. Like, if you like the Marvel movies, you like all these movies you grew up on as a kid, if you read the comics, you're going to appreciate and understand more why these characters are so, like, good or important, whatever it is.
Right.
And we went into the store. She says, "You ever been to a comic store?" She looked at me. Clearly, she knew I was from another galaxy. She's like, "You never been here before, have you?" No. You ever read a comic book before? No. Well, what do you like? Like I grew up on things like Batman and X-Men and Spider-Man, like the animated shows, because I'm a Fox Kids kid. With all due
Right.
respect, I'm
Sure.
a '90s kid. Exactly. Yeah. So like, hey, follow me to the back, and they have this new readers rack, and it was nothing but trade paperbacks of everything from DC's Kingdom Come to Flashpoints to X-Men House of M to Avengers versus X-Men to what was the other one? The Infinity, I think it was called Infinity Gauntlet. Is that
Yeah,
it?
Infinity
So you have
Gauntlet.
Infinity Gauntlet. You got all this stuff. The Long Halloween. Anybody?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I mean, or what was the other one? Batman Hush was another one. It's like, you read all this, you're going to understand. So I took a few of them home, read them, and I was like, oh my God, if this is what comic books are, sign me the frack up, man. Because Kingdom Come from DC knocked me on my ass, Jesse James. I'll be perfectly honest with you. That artwork by Alex Ross, I mean, my God, I'm like, what? If this is what comic books are, then dude, just, in the words of our good friends at Futurama, shut up and take my money.
Right.
Like, let's just go. And then I just, what do you call it? Snowballed, I guess, from there.
Yeah.
I got three short boxes full of stuff, including graded comics that I got graded. So I got nothing to be ashamed of.
No. Comics are a gateway, and it's so funny. I was corporate America for a long time with Nordstrom, and I would never bring up comics ever, right? Even though every Wednesday I was there in my suit going to pick up my books, right? And the day I gave notice, the owner of the company, Blake Nordstrom, said, "You're then go open up a comic book," because he knew I was a comic book fan. I said, yeah. And everybody in that room afterwards, like, I didn't know you were a comic book fan. I collect comics. And when I actually do my talk show on Tuesday, a lot of those folks are from Nordstrom that I never talked to about comics at lunch, at a meeting afterwards and all. And now we're still friends and we just talk about comics. Comics are a great gateway to, well, I call it comic book therapy, to get away from reality. And the reality is we have to pay bills and we have to go outside in the heat and we got to put gas in our car and we're then someone's going to cut us off on the street and all that. But comics gives you the opportunity to actually be in this world that is yours. When you walk into a comic book store, it's your world. It's your comic book store. It's your friends are there hanging out. And I tell this story for years. People would come in, or they still do, come in at a certain time to pick up their books. And John also comes in to pick up their books at the same time. So Ryan and John are saying hello to each other for the last 20 years. And that's their friendship. If Ryan doesn't show up at 3:20, John is like, "Where's Ryan?" I'm like, "I have no idea, dude." Because that's what comics are about. There's kind of a cool rhythm to it. We were talking about if you went to a convention across the nation and you just took a picture of someone looking through comic books, you can kind of put that picture at any convention because that's what technically most conventions were made for. We've changed that. Right now it's about actors, voice actors, cosplayers, movies and all that have joined in. And that's, I think, a great thing because it brings in more people. But the essence of comics being its own little corral and its own little stable, that I don't think that works anymore. If you're watching X-Men 97, Amazing Spider-Man, and Thor, let's say you're watching the 60s, the Submariner TV shows or the Fantastic Four shows, you have this generation of what comics are. Now you could wear a shirt that says, "I love comics," and walk into, well, I don't know if people walk into malls anymore, but you could walk into public and no one would say anything to you. And that's a great thing. I think that's a cool thing.
That's very true. This is, Jesse James for president. Well said, well told. Great story. Thank you for sharing those. Yeah, I mean, ever since my friends and I walked into that, I mean, I was friends with them even during the time they were before I became a fan. But now that we all know now that I'm in the in the circle of comic books now, it's fun for me. And then anytime I walk into an LCS, I'm always talking to the guys about what's hot, what's going on right now, what's happening, because I can't follow everything. It's too many to keep track of. I'm sorry. But, we talk about the latest movies that have come out, some of the other books that have come out, and we just start talking about it. And we're saying, hey, I've read an earlier run of Supergirl that I really liked. What do you recommend for something after that or whatever? and they always got something up their sleeve. That's the beauty of going to LCS. You never know what you're going to find. I mean, even the dollar books have got some solid stuff down there. I mean, my LCS has boatloads and boatloads of dollar books, and I'm just like, man, there's some good runs in here, man. You got some X-Men, you got some Uncanny X-Men, you got some New Mutants. I mean, you get all kinds of stuff. It's amazing. I found Dick Tracy comics in the dollar bin. Gee willikers, Jesse James. That's going back a hot minute, because the only thing I know about Dick Tracy was that it was a movie with Warren Beatty back in 1990. So,
right, yeah. And well, keep in mind, Dick Tracy came out pre-Superman.
True.
Dick Tracy was actually Dick Tracy was the very first exclusive comic book ever made by a company, which was, I believe, Wheaties in 1938. Did an exclusive cover for Dick Tracy, Little Orphan Annie. I forgot that there's 4 comics that you got, and if you went in, you bought Wheaties, you would get this Dick Tracy. Now they were booklet comic books.
Oh yeah,
and so Dick Tracy has been part of comic books for a long freaking time. Golden Age, not Platinum, because he didn't come out during Platinum, which I think is up to 1910 or something like that. But he would be one of the first action heroes in the comic book world. Obviously, action heroes don't have powers, so that's when Superman comes in. You have superheroes, right? And that's the difference. Batman is an action hero with a lot of money, and Superman obviously is a superhero who has all these freaking powers. So Dick Tracy at the time, you could kind of say he was technically a early superhero, because we didn't have that term at that time with all the gadgets. You know, everybody had to have the walkie-talkie watch, right? That was a big thing. So Dick Tracy, very, very cool. I believe he started in Fawcett Comics. And so I think you when you start talking about Dick Tracy and dollar bins, obviously those are probably reprints or whatever. But the benefit of selling dollar books is twofold. Number one, you want to get rid of inventory, and number two, you want to excite someone with something new they've never seen. So if you collect X-Men and you go to the dollar bin and you see X-Men Gold for $1, you're going to want to buy that because it says X-Men on it. The other benefit of a dollar bin is if you do collect X-Men, you're kind of collecting modern and you're not really collecting back issues and all that. You pick up a X-Men 217. Well, guess what? That's the middle of a story arc. You got to get that story arc. You buy the trade, or you do XYZ. Oh, let me see what happens 223 up. So dollar bins are the biggest trick in the biggest secret trick in the comic book world to get more readers and to get rid of inventory. And that will never change. Now, I started in 10-cent bins. There's still dollar bins out there. A lot of people have $2 bins. That's kind of the new norm. But stores that have dollar bins, obviously, you're then get rid of more comics. And our job is to get rid of as many comics as possible. Is it better to sell 200 comics at $1 each or one comic at $200? Most likely it's better to sell those 200 comics at $1 each. Number one, because your profit margins are huge. But number two, you're getting rid of 200 comics. A traditional store is buying anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 comics a week before new issues. So we have to move books. So dollar bins are cool. It also makes a person looking through dollar bins kind of smarter, right? Because they're seeing new titles. They're seeing a younger guy might not know who Dick Tracy is. It gives them, who's this Dick Tracy guy, right? So I would say the dollar bins in a comic book store is extremely, extremely necessary. We go by the $20 factor in business. How many items how many comic books can you get for $20? Right now, you can technically only get about 3 new issues for $20. That's not a lot, especially with a lot of these stories technically not being good. When you mention Hush and Infinity Gauntlet and Kingdom Come and all these great, great titles that are evergreen and will last forever, doesn't make up for that $6 book that you bought that sucks. And you technically don't find out to halfway through and you've already spent your $6. It's not like comic book stores are, oh, bring it back, we'll give you a refund. We're not in the refund business. So it's very, very interesting that you, as a new fan, from 2017, if you look, you are 8-year season now. You've gone through 8 seasons of new issues. You've gone through Batman days, Harley Quinn days, free comic book days. Our culture is great. Our tradition is great, but it's only great if you continue to participate in it.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I've found some surprising things I didn't think I was going to find in the dollar bin. So thank you, dollar bins at LCS, and we'll give them a quick. Sorry, I'm checking my phone too, but give them a quick shout out as well. Collectors Corner in Parkville, Maryland. If you're in the Parkville, Maryland, or Bella area, check out Collectors Corner, MD.com.
Oh, that's Ryan. Isn't that Ryan? What's the store owner's name there?
Randy.
Yeah.
Randy Myers.
Randy Myers. Yeah, I've known, actually, believe it or not, Randy Myers was the first person I ever met outside of Arizona.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and he's a skater too. So that's
he is
cool. Yeah, he is a big time skater. Great goatee.
Still growing.
Yeah, still growing. Great guy. And you're in the where you're at. That is tradition and culture up to this year.
Oh, wow.
Right? And then the diamond thing happens, and who knows what will happen with the home office of the biggest company in the comic book history for the last 40 years, who no longer exist. So we shall see how that culture happens as AdPop buys it, they move it, and we will see. But culture-wise, you are in comic book country. And so that's like the very, very cool thing to be in that area. You got, Larry's Comics, obviously, in the Boston area and all that way up above you, and New England Comics and all these guys. And so, but yeah, I've known Randy for a long time. I've sat down with him a long time, and we've talked comics. I talk to him at least once a month.
Wow.
Look, the one thing you'll find out with the comic book store owners, when I started, there was 10,000 comic book store owners.
Right.
That own stores. Now, some of them own 5 stores, 3 stores, and XYZ. We're down to 1,250 stores. That's 1,250 store owners left in the comic book industry. As we continue to decrease, we say, well, the best are the ones that are left are the best. But you can't lose 9,000 store owners over, 16, 17 years and say, okay, well, the comic book business is in good shape. It's not, because we have 17,500 plus cities in the United States, divided by 1,250 stores. That doesn't add up, right? So what has happened is we have what is now called orphan customers, and orphan customers started about 2016 when Facebook Live started. I'm one of the first 2 people ever to live stream comic books to a huge audience of people that didn't have comic book stores. And what we started to learn was we became the person's comic book store in Des Moines, Iowa, or in Rapid City, wherever Rapid City is. And we learned to sell to someone like what we're doing right now, to just talking on a video screen, and gain them to like you, gain them to trust you, gain them to open up their wallet and hope that you ship their product. Obviously, we're a bigger brand than most, so we never had to worry about people not knowing who we were. So you have the creation of live streaming. So as we lost more comic book stores, live stream comes into play, and we gain all those customers back into the comic book world, and now they're hanging out with people while live streaming is going on and talking to people. So we've tenfolded how many comic book store owners are out there virtually versus actual comic book store owners. And not to say either is good or bad. I do both, so I fall in both categories. But yeah, I would say we've evolved into this great thing where Universal, you better know who Randy is and you better know who Aaron is. You should know a good portion of the comic book store owners in the nation. I probably know out of the 1,250, I probably know about 700 where I could say I know them, right? There's people I know who they are, but I technically don't know them. And so the more that we can work together and preserve the local comic book store, great. Do we have that gap of the 10 to 25-year-old? Absolutely. I don't know if we ever get those folks into a comic book store unless you're carrying Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and you become a gaming store, which is okay. My store in Arizona has 80 pinball machines in it. Those customers technically aren't comic book fans, but they're coming in the store. A customer walking in your store is a win. It's up to our job to see how big that win is.
It's very true. Very true. Wow. Small world, and Randy, and I'm all the way in Maryland. That's, Didn't see that. You didn't see that coming? No, I didn't, Quicksilver. Thank you. And number two, here's a question for you. I don't know if you're familiar with this name. Does the name Rick from Famous Faces and Funnies comics in West Melbourne, Florida, ring any bells?
Rick Shea. Yeah.
Rick Shea, that's his name. Yeah, I was trying to remember his last name, but Rick's been a guest on And I Quote, which is the show that I do on my YouTube channel. I think he was the first comic book shop owner I ever interviewed in the history of my show. And let me tell you, that was one of my favorite episodes because I got so much out of him, and he loves what he does. Clearly, he loves what he's doing, because if you love what you do, folks, it's not called work. And Rick has been very good at answering all my questions, and him and his crew over there at Famous Faces and Funnies in West Melbourne, Florida. What's up, guys? FFFFF Comics. They're always good about getting back to me. If I'm looking for something, they'll find it. And if they don't have it, they'll figure it out, get the answers done. And it's just, wow. Not that I didn't expect them that they couldn't do that, but it's just communication is vital in any kind of customer business owner relationship. So well done for FFF Comics on Facebook.com. If you're not following them, give them a follow, because Rick Shea and his crew over there are, in the words of an old TV series that was long before my time, Jesse James, Dynamite. I mean, they're great, man.
Yeah, JJ Walker was an awesome guy. He actually ended up turning out being a sports announcer in Las Vegas for ESPN.
Jeez, does everybody land in Vegas somewhere? Yeah. Vegas, baby, Vegas. I mean, awesome. Honestly.
Rick Shea is awesome. He puts on 3 conventions a year. They're amazing conventions.
Toy conventions, yeah.
Yeah. He sells on one of my platforms, Comic Book Shopping Network, which is awesome. And
I've been on that page numerous times. You guys do a great job. There's too many shops to keep track of, but
exactly.
You have a lot of killer sales too.
Yeah, and the great thing about Comic Book Shopping Network, we created Comic Book Shopping Network in 2016. I have never charged anybody a penny for Comic Book Shopping Network Facebook. I created that page for people to be able to pay their bills, their light bills. During COVID, we had already been open for 3 years. Now we've evolved over. We still have Facebook, but we do eBay Live, and I have my teams over there. The notion is, when you talk about people searching for a product, that's not common, right? That's an anomaly in the comic book world. Unfortunately, we have a lot of stores in the nation that if they don't have it, hey, if it comes in the next collection, I'll give you a call. Not understanding that we have so many. There's never been more platforms in the comic book history to take care of your customers. If you want a Superman #1, I'm going to get you a Superman #1 by the morning, right? I don't care if you want to spend $3 million, dude, let's do it. There's nothing I can't do for you as a consumer and as a store owner, but I got to be willing to do that. And unfortunately, there's a lot of store owners. I travel the nation, and I still walk into stores that have cash registers. They only take cash. As I'm leaving, hey, where can I follow you on? Do you have a Facebook? Oh, I don't do Facebook. How about web page? Oh, I don't do web pages. That's fine for the customer base that's walking in your store. And if that's what's kept you open, that will keep you open for the next 40 years. Unfortunately, that's all you'll be able to do is sell to those customers. By the way, when your customers go home, they're buying from Comic Book Shopping Network or Jesse James Comics because they're looking for things that he can't get them. So it's you want to be compassionate to store owners, but you also want common sense with those store owners. How much can I help them until I can't help them anymore? And we're just spinning our wheels. If Facebook is confusing you, or having an eBay page is confusing you, then there's not much I can talk to you about, because I can't go backwards in the way I think, which I'm very forward in everything I do. I'm the very first store, and this is so funny to say this, and I take great pride in it. I'm the very first store to do buy online, pick up at store for eBay. And when I was doing it, I was getting all these negatives because they're like, you're not shipping your stuff. I'm like, yeah, because they're picking it up, right? And so we evolve and we pivot, and we're pivoting all the time. So Rick is always pivoting. He just moved into a great new store. Very excited for him. The great thing about comic book LCS communities, now I came from Arizona, where my store, I could throw a rock and hit 10 stores within 10 miles of my store. But, and I don't care, I'm saying this on live, not very, let's go get dinner, right? It's Tuesday night, let's go get pizza. Not that type of area. Here, it's like, hey, dude, are you at your store? Let me bring you pizza from your other store owner. It's very friendly and it's fun, and you don't feel like you want to be competing, but you're not forcefully competing. You're not competing, oh, I beat that guy. You're like, oh, I just got lucky, right? And I'm enjoying it a little bit more because I don't have to kind of look over my back all the time. And listen, that made me a strong business owner, so I could look at the advantages of that. It's kind of like a comic book fan in the West Coast versus the comic book fan on the East Coast. Comic book fans on the West Coast will look through a Spawn group of books and say, whatever, right? Or Lady Death, whatever. We're out in the East Coast. It's like, oh my gosh, you don't have any, where's your Spawn? Where's your Lady Death? Why? Because in Arizona, Todd McFarlane and Brian Polito are 10 minutes away from each other from their home offices. So every store has their product. And so regionally wise, it's very cool. But at the end of the day, we are a very strong community. Most stores can work with each other. The stores that can't work with each other, that's none of my business. And I'm not jumping in for either side. I'm going to be friends with both.
Understandably. So yeah, I've noticed a lot of stores have suddenly switched over to eBay Live and whatnot. I mean, including a friend of mine. He's not the owner of this shop, mind you. He's one of the employees there. His name is George Bueller from Clobber & Comics.
Okay.
I forget if is it Kentucky there, George, or is it Tennessee? It's one of the two. I'm so sorry. I wish I had the location on my notes here, but it's not here. But from Clobber & Comics, right. They do like 5 Whatnot sales a week, and I'm like, dang, that's commitment, brother. Because Whatnot is a live auctioning app, if I'm not mistaken. Then eBay, people are jumping onto eBay Live all of a sudden. I'm just curious. Are people just kind of like done with Facebook? Are they just moving away from it? Or is eBay and Whatnot really more so the wave of the future, more so than Facebook is?
So live streaming started in 2016. Like I said, it didn't evolve until about 2019 when Whatnot kind of started coming into play. And it gave the opportunity to a lot of people across the nation who didn't have the way to invoice people. They didn't have, like my Facebook page where I have thousands of people following us and watching us and all that. They might only have 5 people watching their Facebook page. So to go to Whatnot and have the opportunity to have hundreds or 50 people or thousands, whatever, became a big, big thing. Now, eBay came into play 3 years ago. I'm beta eBay. I'm one of the godfather eBay folks who started with live. One of the reasons for me, I have 96,000 plus feedback. I've never had a negative, never had a actually I've had 2 neutrals during that time. So I really know eBay. And so what happened was there's still people on Facebook that deal in that, and that's fine. They want to run their own business. They want to invoice people, and they want to own everything. They want to own the paper trail. Whatnot allows you just to sell and build a brand. Well, eBay comes out and eBay says, hey, you 10,000 people selling comic books on Whatnot, we want to give you the opportunity to sell on eBay. Well, what happens is they only accept like 20 people. To get on eBay is, I'm not going to say it's impossible because there are people that sell on eBay, but eBay is challenging to get on. So even when I brought over Comic Book Shopping Network, I was able to bring on 10 sellers under my own brand to sell. Not to say they couldn't get on eBay, but it was a challenge for them to do it. Now, the difference between Whatnot and eBay is Whatnot gets about 36 million views a month. That is freaking amazing. 36 million. Where do you then go to get 36 million views a month? That's awesome. Now, eBay gets 880 million views a month. So, the reason why people leave Whatnot is they want a bigger viewership. They want a bigger brand. It's just they have to figure out how to get there. You could be the number one seller on Whatnot. Doesn't mean that eBay's going to approve you. There's dynamics to it. As we know, live streaming has nothing to do with these Pokemon cards in my hand. These are immaterial in live streaming. Do people like the experience? Do people like the person that's talking? Will they open up their wallet for them? And do they trust them to ship their product? That's all that matters. Your product is secondary. Now, is it good to have good product? Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. You want to have good product. I just finished my 1,856 live stream show. Not talk show. I've done probably more talk shows than I have live stream. But it's about persistence. It's about keeping your customer base together, creating that family within a live streaming. So when you say it's a new thing, a lot of people forget that you're building a customer base that the difference between the best example I could tell you is someone who follows you on Facebook might not watch your YouTube page. Someone that follows you on or buys from you on eBay, they're following your YouTube shows. They're following your Facebook pages, your Twitter, their Instagram, because that's their world of social, of viral, of seeing someone in front of the camera. People know me because I'm a Buccaneer fan. I'm a Sizzlers fan. I'm a Bucky's fan. I'm an Iron Maiden fan. So a wrestling fan, I'm able to bring my own personality into it. I would say that a show, I might sell 300 items, but I might only talk about comics for 30 minutes out of 3 hours. The rest, I am talking about wrestling, and I'm talking about Iron Maiden, or I'm talking about going to Bucky's. So you are correct. It's technically new, but it's not, because QVC has been going on for 25 years, right? But that's an age demographic, and it's never been a collectible demographic, even though, just for historical reasons, so I say this correctly, the first person ever to live stream is Nick Barucci from Dynamite Comics, who used to sell on QVC at 1 o'clock in the morning in the late 90s. So we do have history there, but live streaming is a challenge. What you do in front of the camera, not everybody can do. You have brought on guests, or you've attempted to bring on guests that are great off screen, but the second they go live, they're like, oh yes, oh no. And they can't even say anything more than that because they're so nervous. So practicing is very, very important. Every time you get the opportunity to talk live, take that opportunity to talk live. Don't be afraid to say anything you want. And if you say something that's wrong, just own up to it and move on to the next question or to the next show. My show, which is called Industry of Comics on Beyond Wednesdays, is a very big industry-only show, and we have done some amazing stuff. We've had over 70 top A-plus guests on it, but that also means that we have to be A-plus all the time. sometimes that's not fun, having to be A+ all the time and thinking before you say something. So I enjoy shows like this that I can just kind of ramble off and talk. And when the host asks me something, I can pivot to that next question.
Yeah, you're doing an excellent job of it so far. Once again, this is Freewheeling Fridays, or more so, the comic book stores that built America with Jesse James on the Madness Entertainment Group. Do not forget to like and share. If you have any questions for Jesse James, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. If you're joining us live on the replay /Memorax, hello there. Good, good to see you. All right, well, that's good to know, because I've noticed people pivoting from Whatnot. They're going over to eBay Live. They're going from eBay Live to Whatnot, and vice versa, whatever it may be. So hey, whatever works. And my hats off to everybody who does it, and I wish you nothing but success, including our good friends over there, whether it's Collector's Corner, whether it's Clobber and Comics, or Famous Faces and Funnies with Rick Shea and his crew, because his logo it's kind of hard to miss. Honestly, like Famous Faces and Funnies, like that's a title, that's a name no one's going to forget. Honestly, that is very recognizable. Love you, Rick. Keep it up. So I have a question for you. I have something here. I just want to make sure this is 100% legit and real, which I know it is, but still I want to ask how this happened. Is this you with Jack Kirby? Is that what this is?
Yes.
How on God's green earth did that happen? Because Jack Kirby is one of the 4 founding fathers of comic books, is he not?
Yes, exactly. So I have been very, very fortunate throughout my career in the comic book world as a comic book fan to have moments like this. Now, I'll be honest with you. It took me about 15, maybe almost 18 years to realize the importance of this picture. At some point, I started working at the Friendly Neighborhood comic book store. I was working for Comic Book Bag and Boards. And I was going to junior high school across the street, and they said to me, Jesse, we need you to come immediately after school, run across the street. We need you at the store ASAP. And so I get at the store, and they're like, listen, we got a big store signing, and people are going to start lining up at 3 o'clock for the signing at 5 o'clock. And as a 12-year-old, I'm like, that doesn't even make sense, but whatever. And so every once in a while, I'd go outside. I'm like, man, this is a big, big line. So about 10 minutes comes before the signing, and Mary walks up, the owner, and says, we need you to stand at this table right here. You're not to move. So if you got to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom, XYZ. So I'm standing there, and here comes this old guy, and he goes, are you Jesse? And I go, yep. And he goes, I'm Jack Kirby. Watch the line. Don't let anybody cut. So as a 12-year-old who might have only been in the business about maybe by 6 weeks at that time, not knowing who Jack Kirby is, I'm watching these people literally crying in line as they're getting their stuff signed by Jack Kirby. We went out to dinner that night, and I'll never forget sitting next to him and him telling me World War II stories. And Mary and Tom, the 2 owners, said, he's only 12 years old. He really doesn't understand World War II. Why don't you ask him about comics? And at that time, Captain America was my favorite, my 5-week favorite, right? But I just bought Avengers 172, which had Hawkeye on the cover. And so when he asked me who my favorite character was, I obviously said Avengers. And he said, no, who's your favorite character? And instead of saying Captain America, I remembered that Hawkeye cover. So I said Hawkeye. And he stopped and he said, in my history, no one has ever said Hawkeye. And so I'm thinking, I'm a Captain America fan. So I automatically switched, became a Hawkeye fan. Everybody sends me Hawkeye art. I have thousands of pieces of Hawkeye art. But it was this moment that it took a long time. There's another great picture. He has his hands on my head while I'm eating spaghetti and all this stuff. But that year was also the first year I went to San Diego Comic-Con. And believe it or not, got to meet Elvira in the elevator, and Stan Lee and John Byrne and all these folks. So I've always been in good positions at the right time throughout my whole career. The great thing about that picture, and next time I do a show, I'm going to send another picture. There's another picture I got 30 years later, which is him, and he's hugging me and he's laughing. And I remember he was telling a joke about something, but he's hugging me and he's laughing. And it was the person behind me who took that picture. And for 30 years, they had been trying to find me. They finally found me on Facebook, got my address, and sent me that picture. So if you remember, I had said I had always known to take pictures. And it all started from that one picture. And I always took the opportunity to have, back in the day, a Polaroid or whatever it was, to take pictures of moments that can't be repeated. And I think we're such a culture and tradition world. But my fear is when people come in, they see that picture on my wall, that the younger generation says, oh, is that your grandfather? Is that your father? You know, XYZ, because that's the world we live in. And Kirby isn't thought of like he should be. Now, that's fine. That's generation. It's generational. It's our job to keep his name in the limelight and let people know that every single movie that you technically watch, Jack Kirby had a hand in as far as superheroes for Marvel goes. The funny thing is, where I segue out of this, is working in the comic book store, being an Avengers fan, X-Men was the #1 selling book in the 80s. #1 selling book. #2 was Teen Titans. #3 was Daredevil. And being an Avengers fan, I was so anti-mutant growing up that I couldn't read any mutant books, couldn't read X-Men or X-Force, and I missed out of a good generation of reading. Now, I've been going back and reading that stuff, and I kind of got over it and not being an anti-mutant fan. But yes, that is Jack Kirby. That is part of my history. And the great thing about it, I'm a senior Overstreet advisor. I've run Phoenix Comic Con when it was 150,000 people going to it. I'm a 13-time Eisner Award nominee, 7-time Best Practice Award winner, 2-time Guinness Book World Record holder. At the end of the day, I'm a comic book fan. And all that other stuff is cool, but I'm a comic book fan that can relate to comic book fans. And I think that's the most important thing for me, for my culture, for me, myself, and my brand, because I am the brand of my brand. And so that's what makes it very, very interesting. So you could show that same picture with someone with a picture of Jim Lee, and that stands the test of times now, or a Rob Liefeld, or an Alex Ross. Believe it or not, I've never met Alex Ross in my life, for someone who's met everybody. And it blows me away. I've never met him. And one of these days I will meet him and I'll get my pictures, and it will last forever. But, and I guess my final point about that particular picture, it's easier to tell the story if you do have a picture.
That's very true. That's right. No, that's a picture's worth 1,000 words. You're pulling a Jimmy Olsen here by making sure you take pictures with everybody you meet. I mean, Geez, where's Jimmy Olsen? I want pictures over here now. It's just, great Caesar's ghost, as one might say. But yeah, no, great picture. That's a huge honor. You got a chance to meet the one of the OGs himself, Jack freaking Kirby, the boss, the master, the man who brought us so much characters and moments and things in comics we're never going to forget, right, folks? There was a documentary that came out a couple years ago. A friend of mine, Glenn B. Fleming's a writer and an artist. He did a documentary about how he managed to get himself a one-on-one interview or time with Jack Kirby. And he did a Kickstarter for the book and the DVD of the video footage that he and his friend took while he was visiting at Jack Kirby's house.
Yeah.
So when I saw the documentary, I supported the Kickstarter, got the book, got the DVD and everything. And when I watched the documentary, I was like, oh my gosh, man, Jack Kirby's got stories, brother. That guy, man,
yeah.
A lot of history there.
Yeah, and the great thing about it, everybody was invited to Jack Kirby's house. It wasn't like, oh, you just showed up. If you're in the industry, you just showed up. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that you look back when it comes to Jack Kirby. Mm-hmm. There's great stories and there's horrible stories. The horrible stories are people that would go to his house, grab his trash, and walk out with his trash and have all these art pieces that weren't fully done, but they owned it, right? And the other ones were just sitting down talking comics with them, which I think it was a different world back then. And we will never be in that world where everybody in the industry was treated respectfully. It wasn't just because they were older. It was because they had created so much and got so little in return. Before Neil Adams came in and sued Marvel for not allowing people to get their original artwork back, it was, you got paid XYZ and that was it. You didn't get any ownership of anything that you created. And so those days and those creators living through, some of them, poverty, I think are great stories for us in the future to help those in time of need, especially some of these creators out here that don't have insurance or lose their house or their artwork gets stolen at a convention. And we have to look at our history and make sure that we find ways to coach and teach the younger generation to know a little. You don't have to know all about it, but you should know who Jack Kirby is. You should know who George Perez is, Neil Adams, Stan Lee. You can go through a list of people, but Joe Kubert. We need to make sure those names stay alive in the comic book world. And that's not just for a comic book store owner to do. It's for people that do have Facebook pages and YouTube pages, and give them the due credit that they deserve. Right now we're watching Rob Liefeld get all the credit possible, right? Well, that never happened with Jack Kirby. And we need to make sure that doesn't happen to anybody else going forward.
Absolutely right. True. What do you believe in, sir? Oh, yeah, I believe in truth and justice and the American way. Sorry, that's a Superman quote. Got to give it up to Christopher Reeve. We miss you, Chris.
Yeah.
But good points. Good points. For those of you wondering what the Bantha fodder is going on and how great this young man is at talking, where I don't know what I'm doing here. Jesse James can run this whole shit by himself. He doesn't need me. But in case anyone's wondering, this is Freewheeling Fridays. We're being freewheeling here, buddy. Do not forget to like and share this with your best friend. If you're watching us live on the replay, thank you for doing so. If you have any questions for us, let us know in those comments in the chat. Boy, oh boy. And then Pops goes on to say, I own that DVD in the book of the documentary I was referring to earlier about Jack Kirby and Glenn B. Fleming, their meetup. And he says, Glenn has some stories too. Yeah, he does. He does. Glenn B. Fleming is, a heck of a storyteller and an artiste. So got to give credit where credit is due. And by the way, that's another format that's really taken off in the last X amount of years. I don't know when exactly it started. I'm sorry. Kickstarter has been a huge boom for the comic book industry, especially for indie comics. Am I right?
Yes. So Kickstarter started around 2012, and it actually started from a gentleman who did a book called
what was it? I don't remember.
To the Smiths. It was a book about the Smiths, the band.
Oh, the band. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he came out and he did that Kickstarter, and he did it as a trade paperback. It's going to drive me nuts that I'll wake up at 2:00 in the morning and remember exactly what the name of the book was. But that was done by a gentleman's name of Sean DeMumbrum. And so he was the first technically person to have a successful. Now, there were some Kickstarters that did like $300, $400 back in the day for comic books, but his Kickstarter did $15,000. And that was the gateway to people saying, I don't need to go to a publishing house, pay them 50%. Pay them 15% to ship, and I get 35%, and hopefully those books get shipped out. So crowdfunding has been amazing. Without crowdfunding, there is no comic book industry as we speak. All the increases that we have seen in new issue sales, we are in negatives. If you add crowdfunding, we're in huge positives, whether it be a Brian Pulido, a Murat Michaels, a Billy Tucci, a Mark Spears. You can think about just about everybody that does crowdfunding. Even the people that only do, a small press person who's just trying to do $3,000. It gives them the opportunity to get their brand out there. And I think that's very, very important. I'm going to actually move because I didn't realize my power is getting ready to go out. Hold on 1 second here while I move. So Kickstarters, I think, hopefully I don't run out of power here. Hold on
No, we got you, man.
Okay. Let me just get over here. There we go. Okay. So Kickstarters, I think, got a lot of kickback. And where did they get kickback from? They got kickback from publishers, distributing houses who said, wait a minute, what do you mean I don't get part of this? When Image does Transformers or G.I. Joe and does $1.5 million and not have to share that with anybody, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I tell everybody out there, if you can do a crowdfunding, call a friend who's done it, do Kickstarters. It's better for your brand. It's creating meta. It's creating a fan base for you as well. And I think that's very, very important. So yes, Kickstarters are great, and it's always evolving into these next realms of business. And I think it's awesome because the little guy gets the opportunity to be the big guy.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. Yeah, I mean, I've backed a number of Kickstarters. They're great. I wish everyone the best of luck with all their projects that have either been fully funded or in the process of being funded. Because Lord knows, there's probably 50,000 Kickstarters going right now at the moment. Good God.
Yeah. There's a ton of Kickstarters going on, and it's never ending. So at the end of the day, what I kind of tell creators is a very, very simple thing. If you come to me and you bitch that you're not selling anything, but I find out you're not on eBay or you're not on Whatnot or you're not doing Kickstarters or you're not selling on Facebook or you're not selling on your webpage, then you don't have any excuses. And that's the world we live in now. So you can be aggressive, you can be passive, but you have these great opportunities to make as much money as you want when you want to, if you're consistent and if you're passionate enough to do it.
Right on. This is why we pay Jesse James and non-existent big dollars on this show. No, I'm just being. That's my poor attempt at humor. I'm sorry. But thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. And before I go into our next wonderful question here that we have for you here at Freewheeling Fridays, do want to say hello to all the great creators out there who got lots of great projects either going on now, stuff that's come out recently or not too long ago. Got to give those people a shout out. So take a look at these fine people.
I am Bo-Katan, and you are watching us on Madness Comic Network.
Oh, thanks, Bo-Katan. Appreciate that. You got the dark saber now. I guess that means you're our overlord. You call the shots around here. I don't know what. Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. If you're a Star Wars fan, you might know more than me. You said you're a 2-time Guinness Book World Record holder. So what do you hold the records for? Because now you got me curious. Because I see these certificates in the background here.
Yeah. So the Guinness Book of World Records was very, very interesting because you're always trying to do something. You're trying to do something different. You want to do something for your community. You want to do something for, in this case, what convention was this? This was Amazing Arizona Con. So you want to do something for Jimmy J, who owns that convention. You're not really trying to do anything for your brand when you do Guinness Book of World Records. It's a tough rodeo to do Guinness Book of World Records. We actually have a new one coming out in February, and you start 6 months out, and the first day or the first month, you're technically trying to get approved by Guinness Book of World Records. And the way it works is we were going against Mark Millar, which is crazy to think, and he had done a book that had 66 creators on it. And I had said to my buddy Sean, well, I think we could do like 100 if we knew how to do it in XYZ. And so we had pitched it. But the one thing that when you pitch to Guinness Book of World Records, it's no longer what did Mark Millar do? It's what you say you're then do. So we could have been smart and said, okay, we're then do 67 creators. No, we're then do 100, and we actually end up doing 115, but we said 110. So if we actually only did 100, we would have not broken that record, because that's not what we told Guinness Book of World Records we were doing. So you're already on this hard platform. Now it's the 6 months of working with all these creators before a con and trying to get them to come to the dance and actually be there when they're supposed to be at a convention. And it's tough getting people from their booth because we don't want them to lose money while they're doing this. So we decided to do a book, which was 115 creators creating a book from from front to back with 12 writers, and the difference in he was I'm sorry, I forgot the number, 115. So 115 creators. So we get to the con, we go through everything. No one knows what they're drawing until the writer tells them what he just wrote, and obviously he tells them what to draw on the panel. Very, very cool. At the end, we're only at 114. We realized we didn't get a cover artist, so Rob Liefeld comes over and does the cover art for us. Then it's another 3 months for them to approve your Guinness Book of World Records. So we have the fastest time to create a book and get it sold in public, which is 11 hours and 45 minutes, and then most creators. Now we're going to do a new one in February, which will be 300 plus creators, and we're then trying to do that book in 6 hours.
Wow. Yep. Jeez.
Sure. Yeah, and you know what? I want to answer this question because this gentleman's brought it up month. Whatever he's talking about, I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But that's something that you might want to, you could private message me, Popping the Madness, if you want, on Facebook, Jesse James Criscione. I can answer any questions you want. Here we're talking about the goodness of comics, and that's what's important right now. But I do want to make a comment about views on YouTube. Views on YouTube are all long-term standing. So if you do a YouTube show and only get 10 viewers, 25 viewers, but over time you do 100 shows, your meta and your algorithms are going to be worth it. So you want to stay consistent. So if you're doing a YouTube show out there, folks, and you're watching it and you might only have X, Y, don't worry about it. Be consistent, because over time, that's what makes your page better. For instance, on my Google page, I am at 164 million views since January. But it took me 3 years to break 1 million views. And then what happened was, as someone came in, they would go back and look at my other 200 reviews. And that's how my numbers went up. So I just want to answer that part too. So.
Yeah, no worries. And I agree with what Madness Entertainment Group was saying. Networking is the only way anyone grows in this world. Yeah, it is. I'll be the first to tell you, when my friends and I started our YouTube channel 5 years ago, this was during the pandemic, right? It was the early stages of the lockdown of the pandemic we were in at the time. And we just made content from our houses because we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go to the studio. We couldn't go here. We couldn't go there. We couldn't do anything. So we were left to our own, we had to think quick on our feet with our wits, whatever we had. And sure enough, we started small, but the numbers started to grow. The subscribers, started to grow over time because we were being consistent with the stuff we were putting out, right? So the more we did that, the more it just snowballed. And today, even though they've moved on to other stuff and they gave me the keys to the castle, with all due respect, Jesse James. So I've been running the channel with a friend of mine has helped me with the backgrounds, the overlays, the thumbnails, like the stuff you see in the front here, Freewheeling Fridays, like all that stuff was put together by my friend Case, and he lives a million miles away overseas. So my hat's off to Case, the Dutch Star Wars guy on YouTube. Give him a follow, give him a subscription, because he loves talking nerdy stuff like Star Wars. But because of him, the channel looks more professional, sharper than it ever has been. And because of that, I'm going on 1,550 subscribers now. So it may not be it's nothing like Joe Rogan, but at the same time, I'm having fun, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and that passion's going to show through, and people are going to gravitate towards that anyway.
Right.
So,
exactly.
It's not about being a gazillionaire. It's not about the mansions, the money, the cars, whatever. It's about enjoying what you love to do most. And in my chatting, chatting about pop culture. In this case, I love movies because I grew up watching them since I was 3. I love TV series. I got into comic books 8 years ago. I'm still new, so go easy on me, guys.
By far.
But these are pop culture has been my jam since I was 3, man. And I got no regrets. And I'm going to keep doing it until I can do it no longer. Just the last couple of weeks, I've started writing again. And I haven't written for 5 years. And now that I'm doing it again and getting back in the swing of things, trying to get on a consistent basis, mind you, baby steps, but I'm getting there and I'm enjoying it. And I like writing now. So if I like writing, why can't you just keep doing it? If you love something at all, there's no shame in keep on doing it because it's something you love to do. It's not work.
Right. Exactly. And people can't see you on a show and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to watch this show forever. They need to see you consistently. You need to become the rhythm of what they do in life. So if they come on and they say, oh my gosh, it's Friday, I got to go check out Ryan's show. And it becomes a rhythm in their life. And that's your job, is just to create a space for someone to watch either now, later, or next week. But the notion is we're always learning. StreamYard, I was one of the first people on StreamYard. I can tell you, when I go back and look at a video 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I just laugh and say, how did StreamYard come out with that junk? Right? And now you look and say, oh my gosh, I can do this and I can do that. And it's always evolving. It's kind of like if you're, and this is way far left here as far as comic book world goes, if you're anti-AI in the comic book world, it's going to eliminate how far you can advance in the social world. And you need the social world to advance your comic book world. And so I think what happens is people say, oh, I'll never do AI. I'll never do it on my cover. But then they won't do anything AI Facebook, or they won't do anything AI YouTube. And that's two separate parts of your business. And so you have to take advantage of AI where it's at. Quantum is coming out soon. Well, I shouldn't say soon. It's down the road. When quantum comes out, everything changes overnight, because that's even better than AI, right? So yeah, you are right. Be consistent, but your passion to continue to do shows is the most important thing. Not only do we have to provide hope to others, we have to provide hope to ourselves, to better ourselves. And maybe it's just speaking, maybe it's just I watched a guy do a show for an hour. I don't know how I got an hour into it. He never looked at the screen once. And I'm like, why am I watching this guy? He can't look at the screen. I talked to him, and his next show, he was looking at the screen the whole time, but he never realized it because he had never talked to people on a live stream before. So he's looking down at his notes and all that. So this is fun. This is exciting. This is what makes you better. And if you continue to do it, you will reach whatever goals you want. And it's not what people need you to be at. It's the goals that you want to reach.
Yeah. I mean, I put out 3 shows a week, man. I'm hustling 3 shows a week. And then I'm writing, I started writing for an hour every day this week, just to, get the wheels turning again. And I finished I write short stories. So I'm writing fictional, by the way. This is fictional short story. So I wrote a Western in 2 days. Submitted it for an anthology that's coming up. The deadline was June 9th. I got it done before that. So my submission is in. I'm waiting to hear back on that if it gets picked or not. I mean, if it gets picked, great. If it doesn't, hey, I threw my name in the ring. That's all that matters.
Right.
I'm in the process of writing another short story for another local short story. This one's for a local short story writing contest in the DMV, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area. So that one is a coming of age / sword and sorcery story, which is my first stab at sword and sorcery. So I'm a little I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see where the story goes.
Right.
I'm 2,100 words in. The limit is 4,000 or less. So I'm halfway, I'm getting there. I'm feeling the groove. It's writing itself. I'm oozing it. It's enjoyable. I'm seeing it where it goes. So in the words of our good friends at Raiders, I'm making this up as I go, but it's fun. And I don't mind that. I mean, I have an idea of what the story is, but at the same time, when you're writing it, more stuff comes to you as you're writing it. So that helps.
Yeah. I will tell you, I've been at dinners with some great people in this industry, and we'll be having a great conversation, and they'll stop and they'll go, hey, what do you think about hamsters versus lizards? And I'm like, how long have you been thinking about this book? Oh, it just came to me. Right. And they're finding napkins to write this down. And I'm like, you got your phone, just write it in your notes. But when it comes to you, you got to react. And in this world, especially if you're doing Kickstarters, the worst thing you could do in Kickstarters is look at what everybody else is doing in Kickstarters and then try to write a story. You got to write your story and then go with it and not have all these distractions that go on in the Kickstarter world or the social networking world. You also have to realize that one of the best writers, one of the best cover artists in the world, his name is Chad Harding. He's actually from Vegas too, which is very cool. He had come in last place at a artist contest in 1992, I believe. And the owner pulled him aside and they said, Chad, don't worry about it. You're going to be a great comic book artist. And 10 years later, he was doing every single cover for Harley Quinn. And so you need both angles to this. You need the defeat angle and you need the success angle. And if you can figure out how to do both, you're in good shape going forward.
In the words of Morgan Freeman, he's right, Flip City Magazine's here. They say freewheeling. What's up, Flip City Magazine? Kitty Phillips out there. How you do? Or is it Christy? Christy, I think, is holding on to that account. What's up, Christy? Good to see you. Hope everything's well in your neck of the woods. Madison Entertainment Group says the way to go is Roku, baby. Yeah, I mean, if my shows end up on Roku, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. That'd be fun because I own a Roku smart TV, so then I can stream everyone else's shows. Pops, just throwing it out there as a for instance. But yeah, I started getting back into writing again, and who knows, maybe I'll turn one of my short stories into a comic book and do it through Kickstarter. Because I know people in the industry. I know Rob Multeri of Lone Wolf Comics, Lori Calcaterra. What is it? What's her name? Worthy Chaos Comics. Chrissy. Chrissy, I know her. So it's like I know tons of people. That's the beauty of being an interviewer. You get to interview so many different people from all around the world. And I've interviewed some of the best indie creators in the galaxy. So, you got resources out there. Just use them.
And the great thing about indie, this is what I love about indie folks. Indie folks,
thank you,
are the best people to hang out with because they don't have a ceiling when you're sitting with whoever it is, let's just say we're sitting with Jim Lee or Rob Liefeld or Todd or Brian, they've already hit these ceilings and now they're just trying to overachieve. Where indie is always just trying to be better. They're trying to get in front of they're only trying to get in front of one more person at a time. Where if you're with a Todd McFarlane, he's trying to get in front of 10,000 people at a time. So that one person having that talk, if you go down Artist Alley and Small Press at a convention, you see the guys who are standing up, right? The guys they want to engage with you. They want to tell you about their story. And they just need one person to stop and listen. And that's why I love indie folks, because they're willing to stand there for 10 hours at a show to talk to someone. And I think that's awesome. And I think I would hope that most people that were indies that became big don't forget those moments of being the person in the row that might only sold one comic that day. And so, yeah, indie folks, small press, I think they are the foundation of the comic book industry, not just today, but 75, 80 years ago. Because you got to keep in mind, when Jack Kirby started with Red Raven, that was an indie book, right? And I think that's where we learn, is being an indie and small press.
Absolutely. So, and by the way, I got the name right. It was Carissa Grant of Where the Chaos Comics. She's got the Redemption and what was it called? Good Lord, why am I? It's late, guys. I'm tired. Let me see. Flip City Magazine says independent is the best. Yes. It is. I'm not going to disagree with you on any front when it comes to that. I'm not, because I've interviewed too many on And I Quote channel in the past 5 years to not say that, because they are the best. They're the most creative minds in the world. So
yeah, and to think that Image Comics was an independent, right? Now they're number 3, and you could say, well, they're not really independent anymore. They're number 3, so that takes them out of the independent world. But they have so many independent creators that get their start at Image that makes them very, very viable. And I think knowing the Booms of the world, the Dynamites of the world, the Top Cow still in business. All these folks, they're given the opportunities to people to express themselves. Now, are the pay rates the same and all that? That's a different story. That's not my world. I'm not going to talk about that stuff. But for instance, exclusive covers, right? Look at how many cover artists have jobs that probably 90% of them are independent artists that are trying to get their small book out, but they're doing covers. And I think that's very interesting.
Yeah. What was I going to say there? For sure. Well, here's one for you. Favorite comic book-based movies or TV series? You have any favorites?
This is the funny part. I have never seen a Marvel movie in my life. And the reason for it is I'm surrounded by this. I am surrounded by this business. And I never wanted to be smarter than a consumer talking about a movie. And by me saying, I don't know that movie, but tell me about it, and letting them be excited about it, I think that's the most important thing there. So TV shows, and obviously I grew up with the Hulk. I thought that was a fun movie. I look back at it, we had Lou Ferrigno at the store doing a signing one time. That was cool. He didn't want to talk about the Hulk, obviously. But I think the Hulk was my big one. But I think once I started collecting comics, I didn't have time to watch stuff. Now I will tell you, I was a big Turtles fan, and I was a big He-Man fan growing up. That was my world, and it didn't really transcend into comics. I didn't collect Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles till maybe 2021, 2022. So that really didn't push me over to the comic book world. But I think in the 80s, you had some great stuff, whether you were watching the Smurfs, which became a comic book for Marvel Star Comics. So very, very interesting. I think at the end of the day, you can have fun. You can look back at your past and you can create your future with all the new stuff, because Turtles today is completely different than the TV show. I can tell you that for sure.
I mean, the 1990 movie TMNT is a masterpiece, and it's pretty well adapted from the comics into the movie. In my opinion, because I finally went back and I read the original comics from Mirage, I think it was, for Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, and I thought, wow, the movie was pretty much spot on adaptation of the first 3 or 4 issues. So, hey, well done. For sure. And plus, I can quote that movie like nobody's business, because how many times have I seen TMNT 1990? Probably 50 billion times.
Well, yeah, it's like ElfQuest, right? ElfQuest was a great book, and then the movie came out. What was the movie that came out?
Oh, shoot.
Oh, my gosh.
I
forgot. But there's a great movie that came out that was based on ElfQuest, but ElfQuest never got credit for it. And it's a famous, famous movie. Oh, my gosh. I'll remember it before we go off air. But it was with puppets, and they were elves, and they're traveling and all this stuff. So there's been a lot of movies that were based on comics, but the comic never got the credit for.
Yeah.
And that happened a lot in the 80s and definitely the 90s. You can't really get away with that nowadays. But back in the day, a lot of these movies were from comic books that just said, oh, well, if I put this in comic book form or in movie form, no one's going to know.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's funny you mentioned He-Man, because they're in the process of shooting a new live-action adaptation of He-Man in the Masters of the Universe.
I saw that.
Now. Yeah, we've seen pictures of what the new actor, the new He-Man looks like, what his sword looks like, what some of the other characters are going to look like, and things of that nature. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a lot different than the '85 masterpiece Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren, right? Look, I know that film gets a bad rep, but I just saw Masters of the Universe for the first time like less than a year ago on DVD, and I liked it. I got some fun. It's got charm and fun out of it. I liked it. Dolph Lundgren is Dolph Lundgren, just with a sheath and the sword, and you got Frank Langella's Skeletor, and it's just. It's the 80s, man. I mean, it was fun. It was fun. I mean, granted, it was released by the studio that's notorious for not doing so well with budgets. It's called Cannon Films. Yeah. They've put out 99.9% of the time are stinkers, but Masters of the Universe, The Hitman with Chuck Norris, because I like that one too. Yeah. Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. I didn't mind that one. Arm Wrestling, anybody?
Right.
And Cobra. Who can forget Cobra? You're a Disease, and I'm the Cure. I mean, it's Stallone, baby.
Yeah, so, there was they did some crazy war movies too. I can't remember them, but they're all like Firebase, Gloria, and all this stuff.
Really?
And they just tried everything back in the day. But I think what happens is as the 80s ends and the 80s becomes extremely vintage.
Yeah.
In the collectible world, whether it be records, comic books, toys, I mean, everything. It's just a huge, huge market. So someone who starts today, who could be 19 years old, could go back to the 80s, learn the 80s, and make a ton of money by just getting knowledge. You don't have to grow in that history to be able to financially secure yourself by selling great product. You know, I never went to a Beatles concert, but I know the Beatles, right? And they have extreme value. So I think the 80s, obviously the 90s, those 2 decades, the number one, this is the funny part, the number one sold item, search for item in the United States right now are VHSs. VHS players.
Great.
The number one searched item.
Wow.
And they are selling for anywhere from $200 to $400 a piece right now. And you can go to a garage sale and people are selling them for $5. They just want, what? You sure you want this? Let me give it to you. No, let me pay you your $5, right?
Yeah, so, they want them out of there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you'll just continue to see vintage shirts. I mean, just on freaking fire. comics are always going to be hot. There's never been a time where people say, "Oh, comics aren't hot." Now, they might say that for new issues, but for back issues rule the comic book world. And I think that's what keeps comic books going. As long as we continue to sell a Action #1 for 3, 4, 5 million and an AF-15 for 3, 4, 5 million for Spider-Man, we're then be okay. It's when we don't see those sales, that's when it becomes scary. Because it keeps comics in the limelight every time that happens.
That's very, once again, very, very true. You've met so many people within the comic book industry and outside the comic book industry. Is there anyone you hope to meet somewhere down the line that you haven't met yet?
Like I said, I would love to meet Alex Ross.
Oh yeah,
I had a great opportunity. I can't remember what year it was. Maybe 2016, where I was talking to Christina Peterson, Elvira. I was talking to Elvira, and Stan Lee walked up, and I said to Stan Lee's manager, "Hey, is it possible for me to get a picture with Stan Lee and Elvira?" And at that time, that's when Stan Lee had his stroke, and so that was my great opportunity to get a picture with Stan Lee. Obviously, that won't happen anymore. But I think it's more the Alex Rosses of the world. But I'll be honest with you, I would just rather meet a whole bunch of more independent folks than someone famous in the comic book industry. I think I technically can do that anytime. But me walking down Artist Alley and meeting someone new and buying one of their new books, I think that's technically more important for me right now to meet. And because those are the folks that make it go. And at the end of the day, we don't know where they'll be tomorrow. Look at the #1 selling cover comic book artist right now is Mark Spears. Who was Mark Spears 2 years ago? Right? He's just an independent guy. Now he's the #1 selling dude. He just did a Kickstarter for a baseball card of a horror character and did $245,000 on his Kickstarter. Who does $245,000 on a card, a horror card? But Mark Spears does. And so people that shook his hand, got to know him, bought his small press book. I think that's a better way to go right now. Now, if you're brand new, obviously it's the opposite direction. You want to meet Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld. But I would say those are the independent folks are the folks I get real excited to meet.
Oh wow! All right, I think. And by the way, he better say Pops. he hopes that the name Pops Van Zandt ends up on your list there, Jesse James. I don't know if it is or not, but he's just being silly. Who knows? Maybe maybe you and Pops will cross paths at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. At the end of the day, we are in a business that moves forward. I'm not someone that looks back at anything. I don't look at anything that deals with the business. My job is to be the face of the company. And if the business is doing X, Y, Z, awesome. That's what people get paid to do. What I get paid to do is just to sell one more book for the brand, get more artist work, right? We have 3 exclusives coming out for the store that gives the publisher 3 publishers books. It gives 3 artist books, and it gives 3 colorist books, and it gives 3 inkers. And that's, I think, very, very important to help out the independent books, the publishers, the individuals who are out there, even the little guys that are doing that. You were talking about a con that you're going to. That little con is going to give the opportunity for maybe 20 people to get their books out. And I think that's how people start. People can't be successful if they just sit in their artist room and sketch. They need to be able to talk to people. And they need to be able to shake hands with people. They need to be able to answer questions from people on a fly. And then they need people to understand what their goals are and why they do this. there's a lot of people that do this part-time that have great jobs, but would quit their great job if they could just have one successful book.
Well, I'll tell you what, if any of my stuff ends up as a comic book on Kickstarter, I'll text you. I'll let you know what's going on. Then you can, you can decide to back it, or maybe you can read the story. Who knows? It's up to you and up to you, the audience, if you want to get on this as well. Speaking of historical facts about the great city of Las Vegas, are you familiar with a movie called Swingers with Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn? Does that ring any bells?
Sure, yeah.
Because they filmed a couple of scenes when Vegas, baby, Vegas. That's where I got those 3 magical words, and I also got the words that I always tell my friends every day. You're so money you don't even know it. Like a big bear, man. I mean, it's a form of encouragement. It's what I do for my friends every chance I get. So there's that. But then there was also, and I started rewatching this too. There was a TV series that was on during the early 2000s. It starred James Caan, Josh Duhamel, Nikki Cox, James LaShore, Vanessa Marcel, Marsha Thomason. It was simply called Las Vegas. It was about an elite crew working surveillance and security at the Montecito Resort and Casino in Vegas. You ever hear of that TV series?
What was it called?
It was called Las Vegas. It literally was simply called Las Vegas, and it aired from 2003 to, I believe, 2007.
Well, because the original Las Vegas.
Well, yeah, that's going back like over here.
And
yeah.
Wasn't that supposed to be a spin-off, or no?
No, it's its own thing.
It's its own thing. No, I do not know about that. No.
Okay. Well, if you ever get a chance, it's streaming for free on Roku right now, so you can, if you have access to it, you can check it out. It's a bit of a dramedy. You know, it's a bit serious, but it is a bit comedic a lot of times. So it's a mixture of both. But it's a fun show. It's a fun show. If you're a native of Vegas, if you've been to Vegas before, there's a lot of idiosyncrasies or things that you'll pick up real quick. And no, Pops, I'm not talking about Vegas. I'm not talking about that TV series. No. But it's funny you mentioned that, because there was a TV series that was on some years ago that was called Vegas, but it starred Dennis Quaid and Michael Chiklis, and it was about the 1960s, like the early beginnings of the city of Las Vegas, and it only lasted 1 season. And Carrie-Anne Moss, aka Trinity from The Matrix, is on that show too. It's too bad that they canceled it, because I like that show. Yeah. Personally.
Yeah, I think that the problem Vegas faces is people think Vegas and they think casinos and they think strip clubs and gambling and all this stuff. There's a whole city within Las Vegas. It's just it's basically, if you get away from that, you're fine. When my friends used to come into town, I would just give them the keys to my car and say, guys, I don't want to go to the casino. I go do that any day you want.
Oh,
right. And so when you grow up in Vegas, I grew up in Vegas in the 70s and the 80s, and it's just a different world. And so I think when you talk about the history of Vegas, it really depends on the decades you were there. My dad worked for the Fertittas. The Fertittas were, well, I'm not going to go any farther than that, but he worked for the Fertittas. so I grew up in that world, right? And which is the stations, and now they got all these casinos. And so I think Vegas, if you go there and you get into that world, fine. But if you just go to live, it's just like any other city in the United States. And it's fun. It's exciting. When I lived there, it was mostly desert. There wasn't a lot going on back in the day. But I would not mind at the end of the day retiring there 20 years from now and just hanging out with my friends. And we have a tight group there. And believe it or not, Vegas is, if you look at Vegas and you look at comic book stores, there's a lot of comic book stores in Las Vegas. I didn't realize it until I went back there a couple years ago and we did a Google search. I'm like, holy cow, there is a lot of stores in Vegas. We weren't able to go to them all, but there are a lot of stores in Vegas, and it's a very good community.
Vegas, baby. Vegas. And yes, it was simply called Las Vegas, Pops. I know you're thinking of the James Caan, Josh Duhamel show that I referenced earlier. Yes, it's called Las Vegas. It's streaming for free on Roku. Check it out. I'm in the middle of season 1. I think I'm 10 episodes in. I'm enjoying the rewatch because I really like the show. I own the first 4 or 5 seasons on DVD, to be perfectly honest with you here, Jesse James. But that's just me. So as a bit of a wrap up here, I'm just curious. If my friends and I decide to visit the fabulous city of Las Vegas, where's the first place we should go? Should it be somewhere on the Vegas Strip, or should it be one of the comic book stores? And if so, which one?
So if you're going to go, believe it or not, the funnest comic book store there is a place called Velvet Underground. The name should tell you enough. But Velvet Underground actually bought the store I worked in the 80s. And they are on Decatur and Charleston. And I believe it is a old, I don't know if it's an old Taco Bell. I think it's across the street from Taco Bell. But when you go in, it's boxes and boxes of comics. And the guy has been doing it forever. I don't think he takes credit card. I think he only takes cash. But when you buy your stuff, other than the stuff in the cases, nothing is priced. And he just looks at it doesn't even have the time look in your box. And he's like, oh, that's $60, right? Whatever. So Velvet Underground, there's a new store called Red Hood Comics that just opened up. A little bit high-end boutique store, but very, very good owner there. Alternate Reality, which is Ralph. If you're from Vegas, you know who Ralph is. Ralph is just a awesome guy in the comic book community. He just opened up not a new store, but he moved his store to a nice place. So there's tons of places. I off the top of my head, I can't remember them all, but every store has its own flavor, its own style, and the way that it sells comics. And I think that's very, very cool to have that. A lot of young store owners, so that's always a good thing as well. So yeah, I would say those three would be the first three that pop into my head. I'm sure someone that lives in Vegas could say, hey, go to these 10 stores or whatever. We are opening up a store in DeLand, Florida. So if you're ever in DeLand, Florida, it's 3,600 square feet. It's all boutique style. So if you walk into the Amazing Spider-Man section, it's going to be Amazing Spider-Man comic book, shirts, toys, records, socks, everything will be in that section, Star Wars section and all that. But at the end of the day, I will tell you and my part is go to any comic book store across the nation. Support them. Even if you walk in, don't buy anything, share their Facebook page. I think it's very, very important that we help these last 1,250 comic book stores get back to 1,500 comic book stores. And they can't do it themselves. They can only do it by their fan base and new customers promoting themselves. And then also try to get them on your show. The ones that will talk on a show, get them on your show, because that's very important as well.
Very, very true. I can't disagree with anything this man has said the last hour and 40 plus minutes we've been on this show. But thank you so much for sharing that with us. Sure. And thank you for being here, Jesse James. Thank you so much for being our guest on this week's episode of Freewheeling Fridays. It's been an honor and a pleasure to get to know you a little better.
Yeah.
Hear some of your True Hollywood stories, all the great things you've done and the things you have planned for the future with this new place being open in the great state of Florida, the Sunshine State. And we have a lot of our good friends live in the great state of Florida, including Rick Shea and the team over there, Famous Faces and Funnies. I do want to pay you a visit to your place, and I do want to pay Rick Shea and his crew a visit and thank them for everything they provided for us over the years with what they got going on there. Well done, fellas. But if someone wants to know more about you and keep up to date with the new store that's going to be opening at some point soon and everything else going on, where can they follow you?
The best place to follow me is Jesse James Comics on Facebook. We're 47,000 strong. We talk about whatever XYZ. ebay.com/Jesse James Comics there. Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. We're always evolving. We're always talking about new stuff. You can check me out on Tuesday nights on Industry a Comic Show, on Beyond Wednesdays on YouTube, where we only talk about the industry and nothing else. It's just about the industry, really. So just fun, good stuff. I really appreciate you giving me the vine to talk on. And, it's fun. And I'm glad that we were able to answer some of your questions.
Definitely. We'll have to have you on again in the near future, for sure. Like talking this stuff with you. Plus all the stories you got. Goodness gracious,
Yeah.
man. You're like a History Channel on steroids.
There you go. Yeah.
Which I totally dig, by the way. That's not a negative.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
It's an all positive here, but thank you for being here with us, man. Do appreciate it. My name is Ryan of Anti-Quote Channel. You can follow me across all forms of social media simply at, where am I pointing to? There it is, Anti-Quote Channel. We talk about all things nerd culture there. We embrace the nerd within you at Anti-Quote Channel, so check us out. We do movie watch-alongs. We have interviews with creators from all over the world. We just did a discussion on our top 5 favorite MCU movies, so you can check that out. It's on the Marvel Nerds playlist, more specifically. And Freewheeling Fridays, you know where to find us. You know how it is. Same time, same channel. Freewheeling Fridays, Friday nights, 11 o'clock Eastern time on the Madness Entertainment Group. So check it out. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when the videos go up and they go live. Remember, life is better when supporting indie creators, indie writers, indie artists, all kinds of wonderful people from all around the world. Take a look.